Family? You want to talk about family loyalty? The words escape my lips with a coldness I've never heard in my own voice before. The man sitting across from me, my own brother Michael, stares back with a mixture of shock and dawning horror as I turn my nameplate around to reveal Eleanor Green, CO. The conference room suddenly feels like the eye of a storm. The city of Boston sparkles beyond the 40th floor windows, but inside, time stands frozen. I've spent 15 years of my life building Helix Medical Technologies from nothing, and now, in this moment of perfect irony, my brother who never believed in me is applying for a job at my company. Eleanor? Michael's voice cracks slightly, his professional demeanor crumbling. The resume in his hands, the one he'd been so proud of moments earlier, trembles slightly. You're the CEO of Helix? What I thought, that I was just wasting my time with a little hobby? I complete his thought, the words tasting bitter. That's what you've been telling everyone for years, isn't it? And now you want me to hire you? His face drains of color as the full implications sink in. Just last week, he and his wife, Teresa, had cornered me at our parents' dinner table, demanding $50,000 for a house down payment because I was single with no real responsibilities. Now he's sitting in my company, having unknowingly applied to work for his little sister, the sister he's spent years dismissing and belittling. I should feel triumphant. Instead, I feel a hollow ache beneath my ribs as I watch 48 years of my brother's certainty crumble before my eyes. You can't. He stammers, his confident interview persona evaporating like morning dew. Can't what, Michael? Run a successful medical technology company? Make my own fortune? Or maybe, I lean forward slightly, arms resting on the polished conference table. You think I can't decide whether you're qualified to work for me? He swallows hard, his Adam's apple bobbing visibly against his crisp collar. Look, about the other night. Oh, we'll get to that, I say, opening his file. But first, let's discuss your experience with teen leadership. I'm particularly interested in your views on family loyalty. Daniel Hoffman, my CTO and oldest friend, sits quietly beside me, his tablet ready. I can feel his silent support, his subtle nod encouraging me to continue. He's witnessed too many of my post-family dinner breakdowns not to understand what this moment means. Michael shifts uncomfortably in his chair, the leather squeaking slightly beneath him. His eyes dart briefly to Daniel, perhaps hoping for an ally, finding none. How did we get here? How did the bonds of family twist into something so broken? Flashback at the family dinner. 1 week earlier, I'd been sitting at my parents' dining table, listening to the familiar symphony of silverware against china plates. The antique chandelier cast a warm glow over my mother's carefully arranged table setting, the good plates, crystal glasses, cloth napkins folded into perfect triangles. Some things never change. My mother Margaret had prepared her signature roast chicken with rosemary potatoes, the scent of comfort and tradition filling the air. Dad was discussing the latest troubles with the family business he'd passed to Michael years ago, something about supply chain issues and rising material costs. I was checking my watch, calculating how soon I could politely leave. The hospital board meeting notes still needed my review before tomorrow, and we had final testing on the new cardiac monitoring system scheduled for 6 m. Eleanor, you're still wearing work clothes, my mother had observed with that particular tone she reserves for her perpetually disappointing younger child. She was wearing her pearl necklace, the one Dad gave her for their 40th anniversary, and her hair was freshly done in that salon style that never seems to move. You're 45 years old, dear. There has to be more to life than work. I smiled tightly, smoothing my charcoal pencil skirt. Some of us have responsibilities that don't end at 5 o'clock, Mom. What I couldn't tell them was that I'd just come from a meeting where our new cardiac monitoring system had received preliminary FDA approval, a breakthrough that would save thousands of lives. I couldn't share that I'd spent the afternoon with a 6-year-old who was alive because of technology my company had developed. They didn't know I was CEO of Helix Medical Technologies. To them, I was just Eleanor who worked something with computers and hadn't managed to find a husband. Speaking of responsibilities, Michael cleared his throat, exchanging a meaningful glance with Teresa. We have some exciting news. Teresa beamed, her hand drifting to her stomach. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless as always. The diamond pendant at her throat caught the light when she moved, another gift from Michael that she'd made sure I noticed when I arrived. We found the perfect house. 4 bedrooms, gorgeous backyard in Wellesley with the best schools. It's everything we've dreamed of for starting our family. That's wonderful, I said, genuinely happy for them despite our differences. Teresa had given up her nursing career when they married, a choice she never failed to present as superior to my own life decisions. The thing is, Michael leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. We're a bit short on the down payment. We need $50,000 to secure it. I paused mid-bite, my fork hovering between plate and mouth. Excuse me? We've been looking at our options, Teresa continued smoothly, as if discussing borrowing a cup of sugar. And since you're doing so well with whatever it is you do in that tech company, medical technology, I corrected automatically, though they never bothered to remember. The chicken suddenly tasted like sawdust in my mouth. Right, Teresa waved dismissively. Well, you have all this disposable income, being single with no real responsibilities. Her hand drifted to her stomach again, the gesture deliberate. We thought since your family. The implications hung heavy in the air. Because I hadn't chosen marriage and children, my money wasn't really mine. My success, the parts they knew about, was just a placeholder until I found my real purpose. You want me to give you $50,000? I set my fork down, the metal clicking against porcelain with more force than necessary. Not give, Michael interjected. Think of it as an investment in your future nieces and nephews. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of the moment, them asking for money while simultaneously dismissing my life's work, was too much. Are you serious? Teresa hissed at Michael. I told you this would happen. She's always been selfish with her money. Selfish? I pushed my chair back. You show up to dinner and demand $50,000 like you're entitled to my savings, and I'm selfish? You live in that fancy downtown apartment, Michael's voice rose. You take expensive trips. With money I earn, I cut him off. Every dollar while you were telling me I was wasting my time with startups, I was working 80-hour weeks. When Teresa was posting about how I die alone with my laptop, I was building something. My answer is no. You wouldn't even do this for family? Michael stood up, his face flushed. For your own brother? Emily goes both ways. Michael, when's the last time either of you asked about my life without making it about what I'm doing wrong? Teresa's eyes narrowed. We're trying to build a future here, a real family, but I guess you wouldn't understand that concept. I understand perfectly. I grabbed my purse. I understand you think being married makes you more entitled to my money than I am. I understand you've both spent years making me feel less than because I chose a different path, and I understand that this dinner was just another manipulation. You'll regret this, Michael called after me as I headed for the door. Family is supposed to help family. I turned back one last time, my hand on the doorknob. You're right. Family is supposed to help family. Remember that the next time you need something from your selfish sister. The drive home was a blur of street lights and suppressed screams. In my apartment, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, gripping the marble counter until my knuckles went white. I barely recognized the woman staring back at me, her eyes too bright with unshed tears, her face flushed with anger. You shouldn't have done that, I whispered to my reflection, but I wasn't talking about refusing the money. I was talking about what I was about to do next. My phone buzzed, a message from Teresa. I hope you're happy choosing money over family. Some sister you turned out to be. I smiled at the screen, a cold, quiet smile that would have shocked them both, because what they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask, was that I wasn't just some mid-level tech manager. I was the founder and CEO of Helix Medical Technologies, valued at over $200 million, and I was done playing small. Flashback the early days. I remember the night I decided to start Helix. I was 30, sitting on the floor of my studio apartment, surrounded by research papers on cardiac monitoring technologies. My laptop screen glowed with the business plan I'd been refining for months. Outside, Boston was covered in snow, and the radiator in my apartment clanked and wheezed. Earlier that day, I'd visited my former professor at MIT who was dying of heart failure, a condition that might have been managed if the right monitoring technology had existed. Dr. Edward Winters had been my mentor, the first person who saw my potential without qualifications or caveats. Eleanor, he'd said, gripping my hand with surprising strength, his hospital room smelling of antiseptic and dying flowers. You always saw possibilities others missed. Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't build. He died 3 days later. At his funeral, amid academics and former students, I stood alone, without family. They thought it strange that I wanted to attend the funeral of just a professor. I thought of my parents, who viewed my engineering degree as something to fall back on until I found a husband. Of Michael, who had taken over Dad's manufacturing business and constantly reminded me that real businesses make real things, not computer code. Of Teresa, who had just started dating Michael then, asking me at every family gathering when I was going to settle down and start living. That night, I made the decision that would change everything. I took my entire savings, cashed out my 401k, and founded Helix Medical Technologies. For 2 years, I ate ramen noodles and worked from that tiny apartment coding until 3 in the morning, meeting with potential investors during the day. I remember the first prototype, a crude cardiac monitoring device assembled on my kitchen table. I'd spent weeks soldering connections, writing code, and testing and retesting. When it finally worked, transmitting heart rhythm data wirelessly to my laptop, I had no one to celebrate with except my neighbor's cat who occasionally visited through the fire escape. When I missed family dinners, they assumed I was being antisocial. When I showed up exhausted, they told me I was working too hard on something that would probably fail. They never asked what I was building. They just knew I wasn't building what they wanted from me. Once, about a year into developing Helix, I tried to explain my vision to Michael. We were at our parents' house for Dad's birthday, and I caught him alone in the kitchen. It's a cardiac monitoring system that could revolutionize how we detect heart problems, I said, animated by rare optimism after a promising meeting with an angel investor. The early detection algorithms could save thousands of lives. Michael had glanced up from his phone. Sounds expensive to develop, he'd said dismissively. You know, there's an opening in sales at the company. Steady paycheck, benefits. Dad could put in a word. That was the last time I tried to share my work with family. Return to present the interview, Eleanor, please. Michael's voice pulls me back to the present. The confidence he walked in with has evaporated. I didn't know. How could I have known? You never said anything. I study my brother's face, the familiar features now lined with age and worry. Behind his embarrassment, I see something else. Fear. The family business our father built has been struggling for years, though Michael has tried to hide it. Teresa's social media posts about their perfect life have masked their growing financial struggles. Why didn't you tell us? He asks, a note of accusation creeping into his voice. I think about all the dinners where they talked over me, all the achievements I tried to share that were dismissed, all the times I started to speak about my work only to watch eyes glaze over. I tried, Michael. For years, I tried. But you and Teresa were too busy telling me what I was doing wrong with my life to hear what I was actually doing with it. Daniel shifts uncomfortably beside me. He's witnessed too many of my post-family dinner breakdowns not to understand what this moment means. We should continue with the interview, I say finally, opening his file. Your technical skills are actually quite strong. Though I'm curious about this section where you describe yourself as a natural leader because you guided your younger sister through life. Michael has the grace to flush red. I didn't mean. That came out wrong, he fumbles. Did it? I tilt my head slightly. Because it sounds exactly like what you've been saying about me for 15 years. That I need guidance, that I'm making poor choices, that my work isn't valuable or serious. That's not. I didn't understand what you were doing. You never asked. I say simply. Not once in 15 years did you or Teresa or Mom or Dad ever really ask about my work. You just assumed it was less important than yours. He looks down at his hands, his wedding ring catching the light. I need this job, Eleanor. The family business. It's not doing well. Dad doesn't know how bad it is. I've been trying to keep it afloat, but his vulnerability catches me off guard. For a moment, I see the big brother who taught me to ride a bike, who helped me with math homework, who defended me from neighborhood bullies. Before competition and judgment crept in, before Teresa, before we grew into strangers who shared DNA but not understanding. Flashback to the struggle. There were so many moments when I almost gave up. The night an early prototype failed during a crucial demonstration. The morning I found out our first round of funding had fallen through. The afternoon I discovered a competitor had filed a similar patent. I remember crying in the bathroom of a Thai restaurant after a particularly brutal investor meeting, calling Daniel because he was the only person who understood what I was trying to build. They don't see it, I'd sobbed. No one sees it. I see it, he said simply. And the patients who need this technology, they'll see it too, once you build it. Daniel had been there from the beginning. We'd met at MIT, bonded over late-night coding sessions and shared vision. When I decided to start Helix, he was the first person I called. He'd left a secure position at a major tech firm to join me, working for equity and promises. I thought about giving up so many times. Moving back home, taking a safe corporate job, maybe trying to find the husband my parents so desperately wanted for me. It would have been easier. But then I'd think about Professor Winters, who might still be alive if we'd had better monitoring technology. About all the people who could be saved. About proving to myself, if no one else, that my vision had value. So I kept going. I developed prototypes in my apartment, recruited brilliant engineers who believed in the mission, secured patents, and finally, after years of struggle, our first major hospital partnership. The morning we received FDA approval for our first device, I stood in my new office, no longer a studio apartment, but a real business space, and cried. Not just from relief or triumph, but from a deep, unexpected loneliness. I had no one to share this moment with except colleagues. No family member waiting for my call, eager to hear my news. I remember thinking about calling Michael or my parents, but what would I say? Remember that project you thought was a waste of time? Turns out it wasn't. The potential for rejection, for dismissal felt too great even in that moment of victory. All while my family thought I was just playing with computers. The office after the interview. That was intense, Daniel says, bringing me coffee after Michael leaves. You okay? I take the cup, grateful for its warmth between my palms. My office feels like a sanctuary now, 40 floors above Boston, walls of glass giving way to breathtaking views, modern furnishings that speak of success without ostentation. I don't know what I am. My phone buzzes, a text from Teresa. How dare you humiliate Michael like that? We really need that house for the baby. Family is supposed to support each other. I silence my phone and turn to the window, looking out at the city I've come to love. Somewhere out there is the tiny apartment where Helix began. The hospital where our technology first saved a life. The conference room where we celebrated our first $1 million contract. You know what the strangest part is? I tell Daniel. Part of me still wanted them to be proud. Not of the money or the success, but of what we've built. Of the lives we're saving. He nods, understanding. Daniel has been there from the beginning, when Helix was just an idea scribbled on napkins. He's seen the struggle, the doubt, the triumph. They might be, eventually, he offers. When the shock wears off. Maybe, I say, but I'm not convinced. Did you hear what he said? That he needs this job because the family business is struggling? Daniel raises an eyebrow. Are you considering hiring him? I stare out at the Boston skyline, considering. I don't know. He's technically qualified. His management experience is solid. But he's your brother who's been dismissing you for years and suddenly wants your help now that he knows you're successful, Daniel finishes. I laugh, the sound hollow even to my own ears. Yeah, that. My desk phone buzzes. Ms. Green? Your 3 o'clock with the hospital board is ready. Thank you, Jennifer, I respond. I'll be right there. Daniel stands, finishing his coffee. Whatever you decide about Michael, I'll support you. But remember, you built this company without them. You don't owe them a place in it now. As he leaves, I touch the small framed photo on my desk. It's not a family portrait. I have none of those displayed. It's a picture of a little girl named Lily, the first patient saved by our early detection system. Her parents sent it with a thank you note I keep in my desk drawer. This is what I built while they weren't watching. Flashback of the patient. 3 months ago, I received a letter that I keep framed on my office wall. It's from a mother whose daughter was born with a congenital heart condition. Our monitoring technology had detected an anomaly that would have been fatal if caught even hours later. You didn't just save my daughter's life, she wrote. You saved our entire world. I remember visiting them in the hospital, watching the baby girl sleep peacefully in her crib, her heart beating strong and steady thanks to early intervention. Are you a doctor? The mother had asked. No, I'd replied. I'm an engineer. I helped develop the system that detected your daughter's condition. Then you're the most important kind of doctor, she'd said, gripping my hand tightly. The kind that makes sure other doctors don't miss what matters most. I'd gone home that night and cried, for the life saved, yes, but also for the profound validation of the path I'd chosen. In that moment, I didn't care that my family didn't understand. Someone's daughter was alive, and that was enough. But in quiet moments, I still wondered what it would be like to share these victories with my parents, with Michael. To have them see the value in the road I'd chosen. The decision, the rejection email sits in my drafts folder for exactly 3 minutes before I hit send. Professional, courteous, final. While your technical skills are impressive, we don't feel you're the right cultural fit for Helix Medical Technologies at this time. My phone explodes immediately. First, Michael. Are you serious? After everything? Then Teresa. You vindictive. Mom. Please call me. We need to talk about what you're doing to this family. I silenced them all and turned to Daniel, who's been watching from my office couch. Was it too much? Probably, he shrugs, but so is demanding 50 grand and calling you selfish. My office phone buzzes. Miss Green, your brother's wife is here. She's insisting on seeing you. Of course, she is. I straighten my desk. Send her up. You want backup, Daniel? No, he says, heading for the door. This is between sisters-in-law. But I'll be right outside if you need me. Moments later, Teresa bursts in like a storm in designer heels, her face flushed. How dare you? Good afternoon to you too, Teresa. Please have a seat. Don't you patronize me. She slams her hands on my desk. You set this whole thing up, didn't you? Got some sick pleasure watching Michael squirm? Actually, Michael applied all on his own. Karma's funny that way. Karma? She laughs bitterly. You're the CEO of Helix Medical all this time. While we were worried about you wasting your life, you were. What? Laughing at us? No, Teresa. I was working, building something. Remember all those family dinners I missed? I was here. Those lazy weekends you mocked me for? I was coding. But you never asked, did you? Oh, please. You could have told us. Why? So you could ask for more than $50,000? She flinches. That's not fair. We're having a baby, which doesn't entitle you to my money. I stand up. Let me show you something. I lead her to the window, pointing to the building across the street. See that studio apartment on the 20th floor? I lived there when I started this company. No furniture except a mattress on the floor and a desk I built from old pallets. Want to know what you and Michael were doing then? She stays silent. You were posting about my sad single life on Facebook, making jokes about my cute little computer hobby at Christmas, telling everyone how worried you were about my future. We were trying to help. She protests, but her voice lacks conviction. No, you were trying to feel superior. I turn to face her. And now that you know the truth, you're not angry that you hurt me. You're angry that I'm not who you thought I was, someone you could look down on. That's not. She stops, her hand drifting to her stomach. We really do need that house, Eleanor. Then I suggest Michael starts job hunting again. I hear there are plenty of tech companies in the city. You wouldn't help your own brother get a job? Her voice rises with incredulity. I would help someone who respected me, who believed in what I was building, who didn't treat me like a failure for 15 years. That person isn't Michael. Her phone chimes. Michael, probably wondering how it's going. She checks it, then looks up with tears in her eyes. He really needed this job. I know, but he needed to learn something more important, which is that the sister he thought he was better than has been better than him all along. I pressed the intercom. Jennifer, please escort Mrs. Green out. Teresa straightens her shoulders. This isn't over. Actually, it is. Oh, and Teresa, I smile sweetly. Those pearls Michael bought you last Christmas, the ones you made sure to tell me were real? I know the jeweler. They're fake. After she leaves, Daniel comes back in. That was cold. The pearls comment. Yeah, maybe. I sink into my chair. But 6 years of condescension had to end somewhere. You heard her. They still think they're entitled to my help after everything. You okay? I look at my phone. 27 missed calls, 43 messages. The family meltdown is in full swing. No, I admit, but I will be. Flashback at Dad's business. I remember when Dad started his manufacturing business. I was 5, Michael was 8. Dad would come home excited about new contracts, new possibilities. Mom would listen patiently, then ask practical questions about stability, about the future. They were a team, different perspectives, but working toward the same goal. As we grew up, it was always assumed Michael would take over. It's the natural order of things, Dad would say. The firstborn son continues the family legacy, but I was the one who loved visiting the factory, who asked questions about the machines, who suggested improvements to the production line. Dad would smile indulgently, pat my head, and say, "You've got a good mind, Eleanor. You'll make some engineer a wonderful wife someday." When I chose engineering at MIT, they were proud but confused. When I graduated with honors, they celebrated but immediately asked about my dating life. My achievements were always secondary to their vision of who I should be. When Dad retired and handed the business to Michael, I felt a pain I couldn't name. Not because I wanted the business, I already had dreams of my own, but because the possibility that I might want it, might be capable of running it, had never even occurred to them. Michael had struggled with the business from the beginning. He had Dad's confidence, but not his instinct for innovation, his eye for opportunity. I'd noticed the signs over the years, the tightening of his smile when discussing work, the vague answers about growth, the increasing focus on Teresa's social activities rather than company milestones. Part of me had wanted to offer suggestions to help, but I knew they wouldn't be welcomed. Michael had his pride, and I was just his little sister who played with computers. The family meeting. The family intervention happens on Sunday. They choose my parents' house, probably hoping familiar surroundings will soften my resolve. I park in the driveway next to Michael's car, noting how much older it looks than the one he drove last year. The family business must be struggling more than I realized. You don't have to go in, Rachel says from the passenger seat. My best friend insisted on coming with me. We could just turn around, get brunch instead. Rachel has been my friend since college, one of the few people outside of work who knows the full story of Helix and my family. She's witnessed the fallout from countless family gatherings, seen the toll their dismissal has taken over the years. No, I say, gathering my courage. It's time to end this properly. Inside, they're all waiting. Mom, Dad, Michael, Teresa, even my Aunt Susan. They've arranged the living room like a courtroom, with an empty chair facing everyone. Mom has prepared a spread of coffee and her famous cinnamon rolls, as if sweetness could soften what's about to happen. Eleanor, Mom rises, moving to embrace me. I accept her hug stiffly. At 70, she looks smaller than I remember, more fragile. Dad remains seated, his expression unreadable. At 72, his health has been declining, another worry that keeps me up at night despite our differences. Let's skip the pretense, I say, remaining standing. Why am I here? Dad clears his throat. Sit down, Eleanor. We need to talk about what you're doing to this family. What I'm doing. I laugh incredulously. You humiliated your brother, Mom interjects. Rejected him from a job he desperately needed when they're starting a family. He applied to my company, I reply evenly. He wasn't qualified for the position. That's business. It's not that simple, Michael stands. You deliberately set me up, made me look like a fool. No, Michael. You did that yourself when you spent the interview explaining how you'd guided your little sister through life, never once recognizing who I actually am or what I've built. Children, please. Aunt Susan interjects. We're family. We can work this out. Can we? I look around at these familiar faces, these people who should know me best, but somehow know me least. Let's be honest. None of you cared about my career until you found out I was successful. None of you supported my dreams until they came with dollar signs attached. That's not true, Mom protests. We were worried about what? That I'd be happy? Successful? Independent? I pull out my phone. Teresa's Facebook post last Christmas. So sad seeing single career women during the holidays. Some people just don't understand real fulfillment. Teresa shifts uncomfortably. Michael's text from 3 months ago. Maybe if you focus less on work and more on finding a husband, Mom would stop worrying. I look at him. How's that working out for you now? You're twisting everything, he says. We're family. Family? My voice rises despite my effort to stay calm. Family celebrates success instead of trying to diminish it. Family asks questions and listens to the answers. Family doesn't treat you like you're deficient because your choices are different. You've changed, Mom whispers. Success has made you cold. I take a deep breath, feeling the familiar hurt, but also something new, a certainty about my own worth that no one in this room can take away. No, Mom. Success hasn't made me cold. It's made me strong enough to stop accepting treatment I don't deserve. I straighten my shoulders. I'm done being the family disappointment, done being the cautionary tale at dinner parties, done feeling guilty for choosing my own path. So that's it? Michael stands. You're choosing money over family? No, Michael. I'm choosing myself. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself. I take a white envelope from my purse. This is a check for $50,000. It's not for the house. It's seed money if you want to start your own business or go back to school. Because despite everything, I believe in your potential more than you've ever believed in mine. The room falls silent. Michael stares at the envelope, conflicting emotions crossing his face. And this, I place a second envelope beside it, is an invitation to visit Helix. To see what we actually do. To understand why it matters to me. I head for the door, then turn back one last time. The choice is yours. You can keep seeing me as the person you've always assumed I was, or you can take the time to discover who I actually am. In the car, Rachel squeezes my hand. You okay? No, I admit, starting the engine, but I will be. The breakthrough, 2 weeks pass with no word from my family. I immerse myself in work, in the comfortable routine of building something meaningful. We're preparing for a major hospital board presentation, showcasing our latest innovation, a miniaturized version of our cardiac monitoring system designed for children with congenital heart conditions. Daniel and I are rehearsing our presentation when Jennifer interrupts. I'm sorry, Miss Green, but there's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. Who is it? I ask, not looking up from my notes. Your father. My head snaps up. My father is here? Now? Daniel gives me a questioning look. Want me to stay? No, it's fine. I straighten my blazer. Send him in, Jennifer. Dad walks in slowly, more hesitant than I've ever seen him. At 72, he seems to have aged years since I last saw him. He's wearing his good suit, the one he saves for important business meetings and family occasions. Eleanor, he says, his voice gruff with emotion or discomfort, I can't tell which. Dad, this is unexpected. He looks around my office, taking in the view, the awards on the wall, the framed photos of patients whose lives our technology has saved. So this is what you built. Yes, I say simply. He nods, absorbing. Your mother wanted to come, but I told her. I told her I needed to do this myself first. I gestured to the sitting area by the window. Would you like to sit? We settle into the chairs, an awkward silence stretching between us. Finally, he speaks. Michael showed me your company's website. Your technologies. He said you save people with heart problems. We develop systems that help detect cardiac issues earlier than traditional methods, yes. Dad's hand trembles slightly as he reaches into his pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper. I had some tests done last week. My doctor's been concerned about my heart for a while now. He hands me the paper. I don't understand all this medical jargon, but it's not good. I scan the results, my professional knowledge immediately recognizing the severity. Coronary artery disease, significant blockage, recommendation for immediate intervention. My throat tightens. Dad, why are you showing me this? Because, he says, his voice suddenly vulnerable. I thought maybe what you built. Maybe it could help someone like me. The question pierces straight through all the layers of hurt and resentment. My father, who never understood my work, is now looking to it for salvation. Our technology is designed for continuous monitoring and early detection, I explained gently. For your condition, you need immediate treatment, likely stents or bypass surgery. He nods, disappointment evident. But I continue, making a decision. I know the top cardiac specialists in Boston. I can make some calls, get you in to see the best. Our technology could be useful for your recovery monitoring. You would do that? After everything? I look at my father, really look at him. Behind the gruff exterior, behind the years of misunderstanding, I see fear. A man confronting his mortality, rethinking his certainties. You're my father, I say simply. Of course I would. He swallows hard, blinking rapidly. I never understood what you were building, Eleanor. I thought. I thought you were just playing around with computers, avoiding real life. This is my real life, Dad. I see that now. He looks around the office again. You built something important. Something that helps people. He pauses, struggling with words. I was wrong about you. 4 words I never expected to hear from my father. The admission catches me off guard, and suddenly there's a lump in my throat. Michael told me what happened at the interview. Dad continues. He said you offered him seed money to start something new. That true? I nod. The family business is struggling. He needs a fresh start. The business I built, Dad sighs heavily. The legacy I wanted him to continue. Sometimes the best legacy isn't continuing what was, but building something new, I say softly. That's what you did, isn't it? You built something your father never imagined. He looks at me with new eyes, as if seeing me clearly for the first time. You sound like a leader, Eleanor. I learned from watching you, even if you didn't know it. Dad's eyes grow misty. And now my daughter runs a company worth more than anything I ever built, and my son is failing at keeping mine afloat. It's not a competition, Dad. No, he agrees. But pride has kept me from seeing things clearly for too long. He stands slowly, wincing slightly with the movement. I should go. Your mother will be worried. I'll make those calls about your heart. I promise. We'll get you the best care. At the door, he pauses. Eleanor, would you? Would you show me what you've built sometime? Really show me? Something breaks and mends inside me simultaneously. I'd like that, Dad. After he leaves, I sit at my desk, staring at his medical report. Daniel finds me there an hour later. You okay? Jennifer told me your father was here. He's sick, I say simply. Heart disease. Serious. Daniel sits across from me. I'm sorry. He asked me to show him what we've built. Really show him. That's unexpected. Yes, I agree. But I think I've been waiting for that invitation my whole life. Flashback, engineering building was my sanctuary. Late at night, when most students had returned to dormitories or apartments, I would lose myself in the labs, tinkering with projects that had nothing to do with coursework. It was during one of these late sessions that I first conceptualized what would eventually become Helix's core technology. I remember the night clearly, December, snow falling outside, the campus quiet for winter break. I'd stayed in Boston rather than going home for the holidays, claiming a research project that couldn't be interrupted. In truth, I couldn't face another Christmas of pitying looks and questions about my dating life. Professor Winters found me in the lab around midnight, huddled over circuit boards and code. Eleanor? I thought everyone had gone home. He pulled up a stool beside me, his curiosity piqued by the array of components on my workbench. Just working on something, I mumbled, self-conscious about my unofficial project. He peered at my notebook, filled with scribbled diagrams and equations. This isn't for any class I know of. It's just an idea I had. Probably stupid. Show me, he said simply. So I did. I explained my concept for a miniaturized cardiac monitoring system that could detect anomalies earlier than conventional methods, could be worn continuously without disruption to daily life. I showed him the preliminary algorithms I was developing, the circuitry modifications I'd been testing. Instead of dismissing it, he asked questions. Incisive, thoughtful questions that pushed my thinking further. For hours, we sat in that lab, refining the concept together. You know what this could mean? He said finally. If you can make this work, I shook my head. It means thousands of lives saved. Heart disease is our biggest killer. Early detection is everything. He handed me back my notebook. This isn't just a good idea, Eleanor. This is important. Important. Not cute. Not a hobby. Not something to do until I found a husband. Important. I don't know if I can build it, I admitted. It would take years, funding. All great things start as impossible, he said. The question is whether you want it badly enough. That night changed everything. For the first time, someone looked at my ideas and saw value, saw potential, saw me. 3 years later, when Professor Winters was diagnosed with heart failure, I was already working on the prototype. I'm going to finish it. I promised him in the hospital. I'm going to make it work. I know you will, he said. And Eleanor, don't let anyone tell you what's important. Not your family, not investors, not even me. You decide. He died believing in what I could build. I carried that belief through every setback, every rejection, every moment of doubt. And now, 15 years later, my father was asking to see it too. The hospital visit a week after my father's visit to my office, I find myself in the cardiology wing of Massachusetts General Hospital. Dad's procedure, the insertion of 2 stents, went well, but the cardiologist recommended a few days of observation due to some complications during recovery. Mom is there when I arrive, her face drawn with worry. She looks up as I enter, surprise flickering across her features. Eleanor, I didn't think you'd come during work hours. Some things are more important than work, Mom. I set down the bag I'm carrying. How is he? Resting. The doctor says the procedure was successful, but her voice trails off. But it was a close call. I finished for her. I spoke with Dr. Reynolds this morning. Dad's arteries were 90% blocked. She looks at me with new respect. You know his doctor? I made some calls, got Dad in with the best cardiac team in Boston. I don't add that Helix has contracts with Mass General, that Dr. Reynolds and I have worked together on cardiac monitoring implementation. How are you holding up? Mom looks startled by the question. I'm fine. Just worried about your father. You don't have to be strong for me, Mom. I know you're scared. Her composure cracks slightly. He could have died, Eleanor, if he hadn't gone for those tests when he did. I take her hand, aged and soft in mine. But he did, and he's getting excellent care now. She squeezes my hand. Michael said you offered him money. For a new business. I did. Why? After everything. I consider my answer carefully. Because despite our differences, I want him to succeed. And the family business isn't the right place for that anymore. She studies me. You've grown up strong, Eleanor. Different than I expected, but strong. Coming from my mother, this is a profound admission. I sit beside her in silence for a while, both of us watching Dad sleep, the cardiac monitor beeping steadily above his bed. Eventually, she speaks again. I don't understand what you do, not really. But Michael showed me articles about your company, about lives saved. He said your machines could have detected your father's condition months ago, before it became an emergency. That's what they're designed for, yes. All this time, she says softly, I thought you were just avoiding life, avoiding family. I didn't realize you were building something so important. The words I've longed to hear for years now come when I least expect them. Not in triumph, but in a hospital room with the steady beat of my father's heart as background. Would you like to see it? I ask. What we've built. She nods. I reach into the bag I brought, pulling out a sleek device, our latest portable cardiac monitor, and begin to explain how it works, how it saves lives, how it might have saved Dad months of deterioration had he been wearing one. For the first time, my mother truly listens. The office 2 weeks later, my father is well enough for short outings. To everyone's surprise, including my own, he asks to see Helix Medical Technologies. You sure you're up for this, Dad? I ask as I help him from the car outside our headquarters. I've been looking at that building from the outside for 15 years, wondering what you do in there, he says, gazing up at the glass and steel structure. It's about time I found out. Mom and Michael have come too. Teresa begged off, claiming morning sickness, but I suspect she's still too angry to face me directly. That's fine. Today isn't about her. As we enter the lobby, heads turn. Everyone knows who I am, of course, but the sight of me with three people who are clearly family causes a ripple of curiosity. Jennifer meets us with visitor badges. Welcome to Helix Medical, she says warmly. Miss Green has arranged a special tour. We start in the research and development lab, where prototype devices are being tested. Daniel joins us there, explaining the technical aspects with a patience I sometimes lack. I watch my father's face as he examines components not dissimilar to those his own factory once produced. You understand all this? He asks me, gesturing to the complex circuitry. I designed much of it, I answer, not to boast, but to share a truth he never knew. His eyebrows rise. You always were good with spatial reasoning. Remember those puzzles I'd bring home? I do remember. Dad would bring mechanical puzzles from work sometimes, and I'd solve them while Michael grew frustrated and abandoned them. It was one of the few times I remember him looking at me with unqualified pride. We move on to the Software Development Center, where engineers are refining the algorithms that make our detection systems so effective. Mom looks lost among the screens of code, but Michael studies them with unexpected interest. This is the heart of what we do, I explain. The hardware collects the data, but these algorithms interpret it, identifying patterns that indicate potential problems before they become emergencies. It's like predictive maintenance in manufacturing, Michael says suddenly. But for the human body. Exactly, I'm surprised by his insight. That's exactly right. We continue to the demonstration area where medical professionals are being trained on our systems. A technician is showing how the latest model works, the data appearing in real time on large monitors. These are being deployed in rural hospitals across the country, I explain. In areas where specialist cardiologists aren't always available, our systems help general practitioners identify patients who need urgent care. You're saving lives in places that get overlooked, Mom says softly. That's the goal. Finally, we reach my office. As we enter, my father stops, his attention caught by the wall of framed letters. Thank you notes from patients and families whose lives were changed by our technology. These are all people you've helped? He asks, scanning the dozens of frames. Our technology helped, I correct. The doctors did the saving, but without your machines, they wouldn't have known who needed saving or when, Dad observes. That makes you part of each success. I've never thought of it quite that way. Dad turns to face me fully. I was wrong about you, Eleanor. I thought success had to look a certain way, like what I built, like what I expected Michael to continue. I didn't understand that you were building something far more important than a manufacturing business. You're building a legacy that saves lives. The words hit me with unexpected force. I've achieved success by any objective measure, financial security, professional recognition, the respect of my peers. But standing in my office with my father finally seeing me, truly seeing me, I realized there was still a hollow place inside that needed filling. Thank you for showing us, Mom says, her eyes suspiciously bright. For letting us be part of this. It's what I've wanted all along, I admit. for you to see what I was building, to understand why it mattered to me. As they prepare to leave, Michael lingers behind. Eleanor, about the seed money. The offer stands, I say. I've been thinking. The family business is dying. Dad's health scare made me realize I've been holding on to something that isn't working, just because it was expected of me. He looks at me earnestly. I want to build something new. Something that matters, like you did. What are you thinking? Medical supplies for developing countries. I've been researching it since the interview. There's a huge need, and with my manufacturing background and your industry connections, I study my brother's face, seeing something I haven't seen in years, genuine passion, not obligation. That sounds like something worth building. 3 months later, the hospital corridor is quiet as I make my rounds. Not as a doctor, though some of the staff jokingly call me one, but as the creator checking on her creation. Our cardiac monitoring system has been implemented in 3 major hospitals now, with more on the waiting list. Today is special. We're launching a pediatric version of our monitoring system, designed specifically for children with congenital heart conditions. The culmination of years of research, testing, and refinement. I check my watch. The press conference starts in an hour. Daniel has texted 3 times already, nervous about the presentation despite our weeks of preparation. Miss Green? A nurse approaches. There's someone asking for you at the cardiac recovery ward. Curious, I follow her down the hallway, expecting perhaps a doctor or administrator with questions about the technology. Instead, I find my mother standing hesitantly by the nurse's station. Mom, is everything okay? Is Dad, your father's fine, she says quickly. Better than fine, actually. His last checkup was excellent. I wait, uncertain. Our relationship has been slowly mending over the past months, tentative dinners and careful conversations replacing years of misunderstanding. I saw the announcement in the Boston Globe, she continues, about the pediatric system launching today. I thought maybe I could come to the press conference. The request surprises me. You want to attend? If that's all right. Your father would come too, but he's meeting with Michael's potential investors today. She smiles slightly. For the medical supply venture, Michael's new business plan had impressed even me with its thoroughness, its genuine vision. He'd taken the seed money I offered and leveraged it into serious investor interest, with Dad acting as an advisor rather than a controlling force. I'd like you to be there, I say, meaning it. But why the interest suddenly? Mom adjusts her purse strap, a nervous gesture I remember from childhood. I've been volunteering at Children's Hospital. Just a few hours a week, reading to patients. There's a little girl there, Emma, with a heart condition. She's waiting for surgery. I hadn't known Mom was volunteering. Another piece of her life I'd missed while focusing on our differences. The doctors are using your monitoring system with her, Mom continues. I've seen how it works, how the nurses check it, how it helps them know exactly what's happening with her heart. She meets my eyes directly. I'm proud of what you've built, Eleanor. I should have said that years ago. It's not a grand declaration, not a tearful reconciliation scene from a movie. Just a simple, honest acknowledgement. And somehow, that makes it more meaningful. I'd be honored to have you there, I tell her. Later, as I stand at the podium explaining how our pediatric monitoring system will help children like Emma, I see my mother in the audience. She sits straight-backed and attentive, pride evident in her posture. Daniel is beside me, handling the technical demonstration with his usual precision. In the front row, Dr. Reynolds and his team from Mass General nod along with my explanation. And in the back, entering quietly just as I begin speaking, is Michael. He catches my eye and gives a small nod. I hadn't expected him to come, but there he is, making time despite his own busy schedule launching his new company. After the presentation, reporters gather for questions. A woman from the Boston Globe steps forward. Ms. Green, Helix Medical Technologies has revolutionized cardiac monitoring over the past decade. What drives your continued innovation in this field? I think about Professor Winters, about the little girl named Lily whose life our technology saved, about Emma waiting for surgery at Children's Hospital, about my father's close call, about Michael's new path, about my mother's simple pride. When I founded Helix, people asked me why I was so focused on cardiac technology specifically. I begin. The answer is both simple and complex. Hearts matter, not just medically, but in every sense. They break, they heal, they grow stronger through adversity. My technology helps doctors monitor the physical heart, but in building it, I've learned that understanding each other's hearts is equally important. The reporter looks intrigued by this philosophical turn. To answer your question directly, what drives me is knowing that every heart we help monitor represents not just a patient, but a family, a community, a future. Technology can bridge gaps in medical care, but it can also, sometimes, help bridge gaps in understanding. I catch my mother's eye in the audience. She smiles, a private moment of recognition amid the professional setting. I build these systems because I believe everyone deserves the chance to be understood, to have what matters to them recognized and valued. Starting with the heart seemed like the most fundamental place to begin. Epilogue 1 year later. The Forbes photographer adjusts his camera while I sit at my desk, the Boston skyline behind me. Just one more shot, Ms. Green. It's my first major public interview as myself. The magazine cover will read, "The Woman Behind Helix, How Eleanor Green is Revolutionizing Cardiac Care." Perfect, he says, lowering the camera. The writer is ready for you now. The interviewer, Sarah, settles into the chair across from me. So tell me, why did you decide to step into the spotlight after all these years? I think about my journey, the struggles, the triumphs, the loneliness, and the recent, fragile bridges being rebuilt with my family. Because hiding who I am meant hiding what we've built, I answer. And I'm done diminishing myself to make others comfortable. Your company just hit $1 billion valuation, Sarah notes. Any truth to the rumors about Richard Parker's hostile takeover attempt? Richard learned an expensive lesson about underestimating women in tech. I smile. His investors weren't happy when our legal team exposed his methods. As the interview continues, my gaze drifts to the photographs on my desk. There's a new collection there, professional achievements beside personal moments. My father cutting the ribbon at the opening of Michael's new medical supply company. Mom at her volunteer appreciation dinner at Children's Hospital. The team at Helix celebrating our latest FDA approval. And a new one, taken just last month. My whole family at Sunday dinner. But this time in my apartment, with me at the head of the table. Not a perfect scene. Teresa still maintains a polite distance, and old patterns sometimes resurface, but a real one. One last question, Sarah says, reviewing her notes. Your technology has saved countless lives, but you've kept a relatively low profile until recently. What changed? I consider the question carefully. I used to think success meant proving people wrong, showing my family and everyone else that I could build something meaningful without their understanding or approval. But I've realized that true success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about inviting them to see things differently, including yourself. Meaning? I spent years angry that my family couldn't see the value in what I was building. But I never really gave them the chance to understand it either. I kept them at arm's length, protecting myself from potential rejection. And now? Now I understand that the most revolutionary technology in the world can't replace human connection. My company monitors hearts, but I'm learning to open mine. I smile. It turns out that letting people in doesn't make you weak. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. After the interview, I meet Daniel for our weekly coffee. How'd it go? He asks. Good, I think. She seemed most interested in the personal story behind the company. People always are, he observes. Technology is impressive, but they connect with the human element. My phone buzzes with a text. It's Michael. Dad's checkup went great. Doc says the medication adjustments in your monitoring system are working perfectly. Family dinner still on for Sunday? I smile as I type back. Wouldn't miss it. I'm bringing the wine. Some wounds heal slowly, and some bonds take a lifetime to understand. But in the end, true family, whether born or chosen, sees you for who you really are. And sometimes, that's enough.